A stat I just looked up, so I wanted to see how these two gentlemen next to me would feel. If Oscar and Lando win another race, they'll tie Sergio Perez for career wins. That's who's next up on the list. And then after that would be actually Leclerc. So, like we said, there are going to be some questions to be asked if these McLaren boys keep winning these races. I didn't know they were getting that close to Sergio, though, to be honest.
I didn't either.
Just looked it up.
I knew he was coming up on Charles because I teased him about it the other day. But I didn't realize, man, it's going to be interesting.
That's it. Okay, end of episode.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Around the Circuit, Apollo Media's Formula One podcast. As always, I'm Junior, joined by my boys Mike, Mark, and Ivan. How y'all doing, boys? How y'all doing?
Good. A week off definitely hit some of us harder than others, it looks like.
Yeah, man, it's been a long weekend, all right? Long Monday. Mark, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Doing good? You're not Mike, you're Mark.
Not Mike.
We had a weekend off, no race this past weekend, so we were able to regroup, refresh, get some stuff done without surrendering ourselves to 20 guys driving in funny circles and actually be productive human beings for a weekend. But Miami is coming up this weekend. It is here in the United States. It's a big race for the vibes, a big race for the growth of the sport, we'll say. Yeah. It's only the fourth year that it's been on the calendar.
Until like 2031.
Yeah, is it going to be that long?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to end sooner, but hey, we're here. It's in Miami. I would have loved to be there, but never been to Miami, so, it is a sprint race, so we are going to have the 19-lap sprint on Saturday, which means we only have one practice session this weekend. So it'll be a one practice session Friday. It'll go into sprint quali. Then we'll have the sprint, and then we'll go into quali for the race. Quali, for those who don't know, is qualification. Most of y'all probably already know that, though. And then the race on Sunday, it'll be at 3 p.m. our time here in Houston. And, yeah, it's a street circuit, so it's going to be interesting. What are y'all's vibes going into Miami?
Vibes?
Bro, just vibes?
Back in Saudi, I was getting TikTok edits for Miami.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we haven't even gone through Saudi, and we're already thinking about Miami, which is 2 weeks away. The vibes are always immaculate. So, I'm excited going into this race. Nervous, but excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. For me, that's always a special thing when all the races come to America side. They come here 3 times a year. Each race is different too. Like we can all agree the vibe at each of the 3 different races in America are never the same at any of the 3.
Nope.
So that's always good. The Miami one, if I could say one word to describe it, if you're from across the pond, posh, bougie, whatever you want to think of it like,
yes.
there's gonna be definitely some celebs and influencers that you may never heard of at this track. So I'm just giving everybody a heads up. This is definitely one of the more, I guess, celebrity-filled races that we're going to have throughout the years.
Almost, it's kind of a stretch, but it's almost like the Monaco of the United States.
I would say
when it comes down to vibes.
When you compare all the, that's
Yeah,
that's
you got the water right there. All the celebrities are out to play.
It's a track you can't pass at.
Yeah, a track you can't pass at. It's a street circuit. It's almost very comparable to Monaco on the United States side. But yeah, like I said, sprint it's sprint weekend, 19 laps. The regular race is 57 laps. So it's kind of a long race, especially in a street circuit where it's hard to pass. I know, Ivan, you mentioned earlier there are some passing opportunities. It just gets a little tight around there. As we've seen last year, Logan Sargent brought out the safety car. Last year, though, Miami last year was a pivoting point for the season. I know coming out of 2023 where Max dominated and it was just more or less a boring season to watch if you're not a Max fan. Going into 2024, and then you had the beginning, the way Red Bull started off strong. They were putting 1-2s on the podium. And then Miami hit, and it seemed like everything kind of shifted. That's where Red Bull started to falter a little bit. Yeah. Lando Norris got his first career win, and then that was where the championship fight kind of reared its head. Nobody really expected it to get as tight as it was getting after Miami, but it was kind of a turning point. So do we think that could happen again this year?
No.
No?
I think it's just still going to be the two McLaren boys and Max Verstappen going at it for the rest of the season. To me, Ferrari, I'm still going to have hope, but I think Ferrari's virtually out of the Constructors and Drivers' Championship unless a miracle happens and we get like 1-2s in the next couple of races. I think it's virtually impossible at this point. But hey, please prove me wrong.
Trust me, I'm right there with you, Mark. Like, I would love for Ferrari to step up this race, but if you look at this history of this track, a couple years ago, Charles had an accident when he was in the hunt trying to fight Max for a championship. It was that 2022, I believe, whenever he was having his accident-prone season that he was having. Ferrari have done okay here, but never done like anything spectacular. This always seems to be a track that pulls the best out of teams that are almost there, but like not quite. So I'm looking for teams like Mercedes, Alpine, maybe RB can rebound. Teams like that to Williams, like step up their game. Williams is a great example. I feel like teams like that will get a better chance to shine. If you're right on the cusp of being a good team, we saw last year with McLaren, with Lando. In that race, there was that stepping point that he needed to say, all right, we're not maybe best of the rest. We're up there with you, Max. We just got to get our consistency down. So I'm looking for another team to do that. I don't know if they'll win like Lando did, but I do think this is going to be a race where you'll see some teams definitely say, no, we're here. We're in the front of the pack. We belong to be up here. And you'll definitely start seeing where the grid actually stands here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I want to say, like you said, this is kind of a track where where teams can almost try to prove themselves. Last year it was McLaren. I know y'all have a little faith, but Mark, you said you're kind of like out on them almost. You think maybe this is a track Ferrari could maybe turn it on?
I'm just going to use this time to rant about Ferrari. Leclerc deserves absolute better. Just throughout his whole career, the man is a championship-winning driver, but he's never been given the championship-winning car.
Or even when they have it close.
I have a few stats. He tied Fernando at 5th for most podiums at Ferrari in Saudi. He became the highest point scorer in Ferrari in history at Bahrain. In top 10 drivers that have scored the most points and without winning the championship, he's on there 2 times along with Lewis. 308 points, 356 points in 2024 and 2022. It's bizarre. You have to do better. This is your golden boy, your golden child.
I think. No, go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, you have to do better because eventually, I don't want to say it, but eventually, maybe his love for Ferrari runs out, and he potentially wants to leave. In 2022, what was it? For a few races, he had maybe a championship-winning car, and he was side by side with Verstappen. We had great battles in that year, but so far, nothing has amounted to the same of that vibe in 2022. Yeah, and it's frustrating, especially now that you have Lewis, and now both of them are struggling. I think Charles in this triple header, he was in the top 4. He was the only driver that was in the top 4 that wasn't a McLaren driver. And it's like, I think you have to fully focus on Charles as number 1 right now. I love Lewis. Lewis is my fucking guy. But you have to focus on Charles right now because he is proving that he's the guy.
Yeah, I think especially this year when Lewis is still trying to find his feet up underneath him in the car. He's still learning the car. He's still learning the team. Him and his engineer are still working on their relationship. I think if there was ever a year that you're not going to focus on Lewis being your guy, and you're going to put everything you can into Charles to help him have a shot, it would be this year. Because moving forward, I mean, you don't know how many more years you're going to have of Lewis. So why not, in his first year where he's admitted he's struggling a bit, he's trying to, still learn everything he can with this team. Why not give it just one more push with Charles and see what happens? I think it's kind of not demeaning, but like deflating when you look at what McLaren's doing. I mean, they have 2 really good drivers, a rocket ship of a race car, and their younger driver is the championship favorite right now, essentially. I mean, it's hard to battle that, especially when Max is thrown into the mix. Mercedes don't look bad. I mean, this is probably the most competitive year we've had outside of last year in the last decade. So I don't know, man. You mentioned, does his love run out for Ferrari? I couldn't imagine Charles with another team.
Like you just said, does Charles look at what Oscar is doing and being like, why hasn't that happened to me?
Yeah. I mean,
like, why am I not getting the fastest car?
Even when they had the car to compete, where, I mean, was it 2022 where he was going toe to toe with Max? Yeah. The strategies killed them. Yeah. They couldn't, they were, and granted, you know, they've moved on and they got a new team principal since then, but like, I don't know. Ivan, you got any thoughts on it?
You don't get many shots at winning a championship. So 2022, I feel like it's always going to ring in the back of his head until he gets another shot. I do agree, like Binotto and that team that season, I mean, that was the epitome of the Ferrari experience. Like Hamilton has said, I wanted to get the full Ferrari experience. Don't ask Charles what that was like, brother. Like that was bad. Like mess ups every week. But it's a little bit goes on Charles too in my book, just because I've seen it multiple years where he has these like weird, he'll go on a run for good runs, but then he'll have these weird 4 to 5 week spans where he's just in the middle. He's like, meh. He's like, I'm not going to wreck the car or anything, but you'll get a top 10. That's about it. You'll get 5th or 6th place finish out of me. And he needs to take like another step up. And I don't know if that has to do with the car or him. That car in 2022 could have gotten him there, but the wreck in Miami and the famous wreck he had at the French Grand Prix where he screams out, no. And that's been heard around the world. I don't know how many times. That's always what I think back to, is that when he did have the opportunity, it was Ferrari not helping him, so he was having to push harder, and he was making mistakes. And those are mistakes you don't normally see from champions. And I think he'll eventually have to make that decision, like Mark said. I just don't know when that is, because the hard thing is, I mean, he's grown up in his team. Yeah. Like, this is his family. Like, he's been a Ferrari driver his entire life.
I think it would have to take a very, very big offer from a team, but not only money-wise, like contract-wise, but it would have to be like, hey, you know, we have a rocket ship right now. Here's another good driver as a teammate to help push you there. Let's go win a championship. Like, there has to be like a team with a McLaren level or a Red Bull 2023 level car to say, hey, you know, we can win in this thing. Come on, we'll pay you. Let's go win a championship. Yeah. I don't know who can do that in the next, I mean, with the reg changes next year, who knows what's going to come out of that.
I think he's also the victim of the circumstance. Didn't mean to interrupt you, man.
No,
but
like, you're good.
I think he's a victim of circumstance too, because of when he entered the sport. Mm-hmm. He entered right at the tail end of the Hamilton era. Then you could start seeing Mercedes starting to catch up to, we're going to enter new regulations. But then that just leads into the Verstappen era. Yeah. And honestly, it's not just Charles. You've got George Russell. You've got Charles Leclerc. You've got, I'll throw Pierre in there just because I'm an Alpine fan, but you've got multiple drivers like that entered around the same time. That all of them had future world champion, future world champion, future world champion. And one man who drives the number one car has been kind of holding that up because he's had a dominant car for the past 3 seasons. And that's why for this season, and especially at Miami, I feel like this is a race that other teams are going to make a statement, but especially like a George Russell. Yeah. You don't get many opportunities where you can sense the top dog doesn't have the fastest car anymore. Yeah. And it's not like George is going to fear Lando. He knows Lando like the back of his hand because they're best friends. The only person he's got to look out for is Oscar pretty much. And he knows, all right, if Oscar pushes Max buttons enough, I know what's going to happen there. We saw last year at Red Bull Ring, George Russell was like, thanks for that, guys. I'll take that win any day. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we're waiting on. And I think that's what Charles has to just do and be consistent. That's the one difference between him and George, I think, is that George can always get that 3rd or 4th place finish. Charles will get that 5th or 6th, though. And I think he just needs to step his game up a little bit more. And I think it can be done at Ferrari, but Ferrari can't get comfortable with having him there forever because he ain't going to be there forever.
Yeah, no. I think no team is safe from losing their star after Lewis Mercedes exit, you know?
You saw what George said. He was like, no contract in this sport is but written on a piece of paper.
And that's all it is. That's out there right now, too. You know, there's the rumors that George might be looking elsewhere for next year, now that since his contract's up. I mean, obviously Toto is going to offer him a contract depending on if Toto can get Max or anyone else, but I've heard George is looking at other possibilities too, possibly Red Bull teaming up with Max. I don't know. I feel like there's maybe not next year. There's going to be a couple changes next year, But I feel like there's going to be another big shift after next year. Contracts are ending in 2026, leading in 27. It's going to get interesting.
Yep.
But headlines coming into Miami. I think, obviously, one of the top ones is Oscar is looking like the championship favorite. Even Max gave him praise at the end of the race 2 weeks ago, where he said he's not making a lot of mistakes and he's got a fast car. Those two things, as you just said, go hand in hand on winning a championship. I think Lando has to prove that he can get his head right and get back into the fight. He's been on a bad streak, and if he doesn't turn it around and get his mind right, I think Oscar's going to run away with it, at least in McLaren. Now, there might be George Russell or Max Verstappen or maybe Charles Leclerc who, from another team, give him a fight. But I think right now, Oscar's the favorite unless Lando can be like, hey, no, I'm still here. Had a little hiccup this past few weeks. Let's get back at it. And it's going to be, a McLaren boy battle. And then we've already kind of touched on it. Ferrari upgrades or solutions. Red Bull the same way. I don't expect many upgrades coming into Miami with it being a sprint weekend. There's only one practice session. They're not going to get a lot of data. I don't really see many changes, but Imola is coming up. And that's where a lot of teams love to do upgrades. So we touched on Ferrari. Hopefully they can get it together and kind of get back into the fight.
Please.
What do we think about Red Bull? Are they done? They've kind of been trending upward. I think part of it is the Max Verstappen factor, but I don't know. What do we think?
It's I don't know. I mean, Yuki, from the small sample size we've gotten, Yuki in that Red Bull seat, he's done mostly well besides obviously this past race with the DNF. If Yuki can somehow get control of that second car, it could definitely turn around, especially with Max. Like I always say, Max doing Max things and just being in the top 3 every single time. But it's definitely going to be an uphill climb at this point.
I agree.
After everything that's happened in the past couple of years, it's definitely going to be an uphill climb. And I don't think they'll turn it around quick, but I think they can turn it around and get decent results throughout the rest of the year.
I still think Red Bull has the top 5 car on the grid. I still think Red Bull can win the Drivers' Championship with Max. Honestly, I'm not even waiting on the changes that are going to come in Spain is where regulation change is supposed to happen, correct? I don't even think it's then. I just think it depends on if Red Bull can develop the car and if they're actually going to listen to both drivers, because that's the main thing that's been the problem. You've only been listening to one guy, like we've been talking about throughout this entire time we've been having the show. You've only listened to one guy that clearly worked out for one whole year, but now it's eventually caught up to you. If they can make the upgrades, I think Red Bull does rebound. Like Mark said, I think Yuki's been doing really, really good on that seat. There's nothing wrong with him in that seat right now. So I think that team's going to keep making steps forward. I think they'll be in contention. Obviously, you're going to say one of them, but I think Max is going to be on the podium. I just don't know where this weekend, though. Okay. I think they make strides. It's just, can they keep the consistency down? And also, it's Max. You're always waiting for that switch to flip to Mad Max mode. And when that happens, nothing's guaranteed. We've been talking about or at least I've been talking about the penalty points thing. I feel like some of the drivers are going to start picking up on that now and be like, well, I mean, if I can poke him a little bit, it won't hurt. So I think Max is really going to have to keep his cool, because this is, like I said, when you see a champion that's down, every other driver on the grid's like, oh, this is my chance. It ain't going to be like this forever, so I got to
go. So with talking about Max and penalty points, did we see the possible changes coming to the penalty rule book? So Mohammed bin, president of FIA, came out today and said after receiving constructive feedback from the drivers, he's looking at making changes to the Appendix B, which is essentially the penalty rule book, and what essentially what determines what penalties should be for different actions. I didn't expect as many people to have the same mentality that I did. I thought I was being pretty biased, I'm not gonna lie, when I said Max didn't really deserve a penalty. But I seen Gunther Steiner on an interview say the same thing. I seen multiple other people say it was highly questionable for him to receive the penalty. a lot of people said yes, he should have. But I think a part of the question came into, well, they only gave him a 5-second penalty when normally it's a 10-second penalty. And it seemed like the stewards were kind of unsure, so they met halfway. And it's either a penalty or it's not. So for Mohammed Bin to come out and say, hey, I'm going to look into making some of these changes, maybe there was some more voices within that obviously we would probably never hear about when it comes to, the Drivers Association, or somebody within was like, hey, maybe we need to listen to these guys and try to keep them on their good side. Because there's been multiple clips where Lewis, Max, even Oscar have walked past him and just kind of don't acknowledge him if they don't have to. Plus the interaction between him and Max at the end of the race, the last race. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on the possible rule changes? You think it happens soon, or?
I want to say it happens soon, but I think it could definitely take, like you said, see, it's always hilarious seeing those interactions out there, especially with Max's this past race. It was amazing. But yeah, I definitely think it's tough to say.
Yeah.
It's definitely tough to say, but
I would say if he does listen to some of them and does some changes, it would probably be like the first good thing he's done.
Yeah, if he's truly listening, like it'll be a great thing.
The first positive that it's come out of his office in a while.
He's like, maybe this will save my ass.
Yeah, that's kind of like where it's kind of like honestly leads great to what I was gonna say, because I have a couple thoughts about this one. Man, that seat must be feeling kind of hot for him to be. Oh, we're gonna bring back V10, V12s, and we're gonna make these rules. Man, he must be hearing them screams from the other side.
He heard us last week talking about.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he must have heard. He must be hearing some of these things. Bro. So, for me, with the situation with Max last week, I thought it should have been a penalty only because based on the rules that have been set because of the Verstappen era. For me, I've watched classic racing before Verstappen got in here, and like his rookie season, obviously, and so what, but. I think we need to go back to those rules. Those are the rules we need. I don't know what happened. Well, I know what happened. You can ask Leclerc. When Max entered the sport, a lot of rules had to be made because Max was pushing the limits a lot. And I feel like because it's Max, they don't cut him any slack because they've known him in the past and what he's done. But also,
kind of his reputation.
I always think back at the Kimi Räikkönen fight. You probably remember him and Kimi at Spa.
Mm-hmm.
That he almost killed Kimi at Spa that year. Like that was a race where I saw for the first time, oh, this cat's trying to like either get the pass or we're both going to not make this corner and go off the track. It's like certain incidents like that have built up to where we have to make a completely different rule book because of certain drivers. I feel like you can let everybody off the leash. Let it go. We had rules like that for a reason. Also get rid of the big thing for me is I don't get how a first lap is different than lap 2. I don't understand. I hate that rule. I think
that was kind of my complaint. It's just there's so much inconsistency.
Yeah.
Let's let them fight. Like I said last week, let them fight, man. Take the shackles off. And obviously safety rules. There's going to be safety. But like some of these, I don't know. I won't rant.
They give you more leniency on lap 1 because they say anything can happen on a lap 1.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and I don't hold this against Max. That's the reason Max cut the corner because he's like, well, they're going to give me leniency because this is lap 1. Anything can happen on lap 1. If you don't have that rule and don't give them that like fallback plan, I feel like a bunch of these drivers would drive differently. I think Oscar would have given him space had that rule not been there of who makes the apex, which I have played plenty of racing games and watch other categories of racing. F1 is the only sport that has this apex rule. Everybody else has a fine plan of, all right, what car is ahead? They get the corner. For some reason, it's whoever's nose is in front in F1, and I cannot stand that rule. I don't know why it's treated as a different sport. We already driving like army trucks out here because they're that dang big. So like we don't really need more rules complicating the sport. Every lap should be the same. Every race should be able to be judged on the same merit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Max could have had turn 2. But then you have another sharp corner in Saudi Arabia leading up to there where probably Oscar would have had the advantage. But because he knew he just needed to be ahead at the apex, I don't care. I'll just not break. I know Max isn't going to break. So I'll just break earlier and say, oh, I was ahead, and then that's it. That's the end of the story. I think these changes are going to be needed. I don't know how soon they happen. I think he is really trying to save his skin right now with all these changes. And
Mhm.
also, I'm starting to get a little worried about these 2026 regulations with all the stuff I'm hearing.
Yeah,
With
it's
batteries dying before you get to the end of the straight at Monza, having to shift down on a straight to make sure you get more battery power. Like, there's a lot of stuff going around that I'm not too confident in the regulations.
Next year is not going to be fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm even hearing the teams are trying to see if some people in FIA are like, hey, can we just extend these rules one more year?
Yeah.
Just to get the real engine like really good and down. And I'm not looking forward to next year, so that's why I'm trying to stay in the now. But they've got some stuff they need to clean up for sure. And this, I guess, is just the start of it.
And I think I saw something today, and it kind of goes into what you were saying, is that, and it's going to hurt teams this year because there's so many teams that are focused, and they're turning their car development focus completely to next year to hopefully be ready and eliminate some of these issues that we might not see a whole lot of upgrades and changes to this year. A lot of car teams might just write it out and be like, cool, we made it, this is where we're at. Maybe we can make a few small changes to kind of get us over that edge, and then we'll see what happens. But most of their car development is all into 2026 regulations and the 2026 car. I mean, Aston Martin has Adrian Newey. They're at the bottom of the pack this year, and Stroll's kind of like, well, Adrian Newey's sleeping at the manufacturer, working in his office doing nothing but working on next year. He's not even going home some days. Like, is it like it's that big of a change coming? So we'll see. I mean, obviously, we got all of this year to still prep and get ready. But another big storyline going into Miami is Cadillac. We all know the U.S. is getting another team. They have Haas, but now we're getting Cadillac GM as the 11th team on the grid next year. They've already revealed who the team principal is. This weekend, Saturday, they're supposed to have a big event revealing the team colors, what the livery is going to look like next year is what I heard, and then maybe the logo. I don't know. I've heard some ins and outs about that, but there's going to be a big event where Cadillac's revealing quite a bit of their car and their team for next year. Nobody really knows what to expect, but I want to take your guys' thoughts on the driver situation. So we saw that they're in possible contract negotiations with Checo. Since he left Red Bull, his name has been tied to Cadillac. There's been the rumors. Now there's all these reports that he's like their number one target, and he's been in contract negotiations for a while now. Now it's Zhou Guanyu, was Sauber's number 2 driver last year, and now the reserve driver for Ferrari this year. Now he's in contract negotiations with Cadillac. We've heard a few IndyCar drivers' names thrown out there. So I'll save mine for last. But dream driver lineup for Cadillac.
Your and mine are the same. I already know this. It's Checo and Pato.
Yep.
It's Checo and Pato. That's the dream, the Mexican team, and I want it like so badly, and I need it like yesterday. Like I would announce it yesterday.
I would love that. Ivan.
I've been seeing those rumors. I do think Checo comes back next year. I would say there's no guarantee on which team he goes to, but I think Cadillac's got to be like the leader in the clubhouse right now.
Yeah.
Little side note, Flavio, I'm interested to see where he goes.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure he's tied to Colapinto. I just think he's going to see how he goes, and then maybe we'll go from there because he has an old buddy in Fernando that signed up at Aston that won a championship with him. That's his boy. He's broken race rules and got suspended for life for Fernando. So that should tell you how committed he is to the man. So I wouldn't hold my breath to see if he tries to make a move in the offseason. But yeah, I think Checo goes over there. I do think they get an IndyCar driver. I agree with y'all. I would love to see Pato. I also would kind of love to see Alex Palou get in there just because, he's done pretty much all you can do in IndyCar right now. He's won multiple championships. He's been the leader. Also, as an IndyCar fan, I got to see Pato got to get that Indy 500 win.
I was just about to say.
I would rather see him do that than make the hop to F1 before he gets a chance to do that. I have to see him get the Indy win, but if he gets it this year, then go to F1 next year, brother.
I was about to say I don't watch IndyCar that much.
Yeah,
but when I do, I know that he's been chasing that Indy 500. And I'm like, if he does get that this year, does that persuade him even more.
Yeah,
Because I've seen him being interviewed and talking about that potential team up.
Yeah.
And him even saying like
that would mean
so much in the
Yeah.
potential and how much money you
Yeah.
would bring in from
just
I need it.
sponsorships and everything. So obviously, like you said, my dream lineup is the same. It's Checo Perez, Pato O'Ward. But there's another name I've heard, Colton Huerta, has been tied to possibly being a target for Cadillac. So they're definitely looking at the IndyCar pool. I know Pato has said that if he doesn't make it to F1 this year, then he's done chasing that dream. He's going to focus on elsewhere, on where he's at. I would love to see him race at least one season in an F1 car before he gives it up.
Yeah.
But I respect, you respect it. He's been right there. He drove in an FP1 last season for McLaren. He's got a feel for it. I mean,
Oscar really screwed him. I'm with his plans, not like Oscar's fault, but like Oscar getting stolen from Alpine made a whole bunch of best. Actually, just go look up, if y'all have the time, how many drivers the McLaren IndyCar team had in the past 2 years. I think it's like 6 drivers they've had there, because they've had so much of a turnaround, because they're all driving an IndyCar because they're waiting on an F1 spot to open up. And then you have literally the team with the 2 youngest drivers almost on the grid at McLaren now. So the whole line is backed up. I'm rooting for Pato to get that spot. There's also another driver that's also been rumored to be over there that I still have a soft spot, because when you drive for Sauber, you never really got a shot. Like if you drive for Sauber, it's like, oh, I was on the grid. That was pretty much all you can say.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad to see Zhou Guan Yu out there.
Yeah.
But it would be, I don't know. I just have my dream.
I agree. The Pato and Sergio lineup, all you would have to do is watch one Mexican Grand Prix with those 2 drivers as teammates.
I mean,
and you would get all the answers you would need right there.
So going to the Austin Grand Prix last season, seeing how big of a fan base that Checo has here in Texas on an American team with another Mexican driver, oh man, I'm telling you, that would be it would be insane.
Do we technically have 3 American teams next year? Like, how are we going to account with the Red Bull thing? Like, that's the thing I wanted to ask you about. I forgot to ask you about that last week, but Red Bull and Ford, like, I feel like nobody's talking about them being an American team.
Ford,
but it's a weird predicament.
Yeah, it's a weird one. So like I said, last year, Lando got his first win in Miami. He went from Lando no wins to
Lando
fighting,
1 win.
to fighting for the championship within a few weeks, because of his win in Miami. The safety car probably played a part into it, but that's part of F1. And like Max said back in Miami, it's always if my mom had a ball, she'd be my dad.
Yeah.
You take it. Safety cars are part of it. That's what helped Max win Brazil last year too.
And 2021, but we're not gonna bring that up because
Well,
I know how y'all are.
You know what? It 2021 was too far.
Okay, no, come on.
But anyways, so I think we got to go into our predictions for Miami. It is a sprint race, so we're gonna give our sprint predictions too. Last year, Max won the sprint, and then Lando won the Grand Prix. I know the sprint was a 1-2 from Red Bull, and then this race was Lando, Max. I think Charles was wrapped up the podium in the race last year.
I think so, yeah.
So this year, obviously it's flipped. I think Max is still going to win the sprint. That's just me. I think it's going to be him and the McLaren boys, but Ferrari might be right there. I don't know. Sprints are always so tricky because you got to be able to manage your tires. There's no pit stops. It's just 19 laps of let's get it. And that's why I love them, because pit stops are part of racing, but I just like to see just a straight shot. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So my prediction for the sprint is Max, Oscar, Lando. But when it comes to the Grand Prix, I think Lando's going to bounce back. It's his first career win spot. He's going to be excited to be back. He had a week to go home, play some paddle, whatever it is, DJ a little bit, whatever it is that got him in the right headspace. I think he's going to come back. And as y'all know, I'm not a big Lando fan, so this is me actually saying something. Yeah. I think Lando comes back, he wins. Oscar takes P2. And I think Charles is going to wrap up the podium. I don't think Max gets on podium only because Red Bull is still Red Bull. And I don't know where that car is going to be. I would love to be proven wrong, Max, because,
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be another Lando win, but Oscar's right there. Charles wraps up the podium, and Lando's going to get driver of the day. So we'll go ahead and give our driver. So you got 3 predictions. You got your sprint.
Dude, I'm cooked. I can't
your race and your driver of the day. I think Lando gets driver of the day because Miami is going to turn into the Lando circuit, I think.
No, okay. I'm stuck between 2 drivers for the sprint. But I'm going to go Lewis for the sprint, George second, and we'll go Oscar on third. I think Lando will get in his own head in the sprint, maybe go in fourth.
Okay.
In the race, I'll go Charles first.
Oh.
I know it sounds like I'm a homer right now, but please trust. I'll go Charles first. I'll go Oscar second. And I go Lando third.
Okay. I was going to say, you got to count. You can't count out the McLaren boys.
I want to give Lando something. I'll give Lando driver of the day.
Okay.
I think he'll get driver of the day.
All right, so I'm going to start with the sprint. I think Lando wins the sprint. I think it's Oscar second. And I'm going to pull the ultimate homer card only because he got one last year. Pierre Gasly gets a podium in the sprint.
Okay.
Because he got one podium in the sprint last year, so he's due for one this year already. So I'm hopefully rebounding after a horrible lap 1 last week in Saudi Arabia. I'll move on to the race. I'm kind of thinking the opposite of you, actually, Junior. I think Oscar takes the win in the race. Lando takes a step back. I think second will be, let's say, George Russell. And then third, I'll put Lewis in the race.
Okay.
Just because this is going to be a track with a lot of tire management, and the Ferrari does seem to do better in race pace, like full-length race pace, than it does in actual qualifying. And then my driver of the day, I'm going to go for one of the Williams boys.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Alex Albon to rebound after getting beat by his teammate. And I'm a Sainz fan, but I think they've been so even this year that I think Albon rebounds and really turns some heads, and that team, I don't think they're going to qualify very good, but I think they'll make some moves in the race because if anything, that Williams can get in a straight line very, very fast. And there's a lot of straights at this Miami track. So I think that's going to be the driver of the day for me. But I just think Oscar is going to win the race. Lando's going to get confidence in the sprint, but qualifying for the race, I don't trust him yet because he's shown nothing for me to trust him so far in qualifying at all this season.
I respect it. So, Miami this weekend, the race is at 3 p.m. our time. So if you're in Houston, we are going to be doing a watch party for the Grand Prix at Kobo's. Flyers will be going out this week with all the information, but we're going to turn it into a Sunday fun day. The Astros play at 1. The race is at 3 p.m. He's going to have crawfish. We're going to have drink specials. We're going to go out, have a good day. So if you're in the Houston area, come through, come hang out. Let's watch some baseball and then turn around and let's watch some F1 together. Let's turn it into a party because it's Miami. Why not, right? Yeah. Let's turn the vibes up a little bit.
Right.
So be there Sunday if you can. We'd love to see you. Come through, come hang out. We'll all be there.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll be there.
Any last thoughts?
Charles, this is like the 3rd time I predicted you to win. Buddy, please. I need this. Please.
Ivan?
Stat I just looked up, so I wanted to see how these 2 gentlemen next to me would feel if Oscar or Lando win another race. They'll tie Sergio Perez for career wins. That's who's next up on the list. And then after that would be actually Leclerc.
Yeah.
So, like we said, there are going to be some questions to be asked if these McLaren boys keep winning these races. I didn't know they were getting that close to Sergio, though, to be honest.
I didn't either.
Just looked it up.
I knew he was coming up on Charles because I teased him about it the other day. But I didn't realize. Yeah, man, it's gonna be
Sergio
interesting.
That's it. Okay, end of episode.
Correct.
We got this.
Sergio got 6 wins. They're both at 5 at the McLaren
Well,
team for everybody.
We'll
who
see
just
what
wanna
happens.
know.
Hopefully, we see y'all at Kobo's on Sunday to
Please
watch the
show
race.
up.
Pull up, support, show out. Let's party.
I'm
Have a
talking
good
to you.
time.
You know who you are. You better show up.
Until next week, where we talk about whatever happens this weekend, we'll catch y'all. We're out of here. Peace.